It was a stormy night in Boston. The rain poured down hard, blurring the city lights and making people rush with their umbrellas. On the drenched sidewalk, a little girl stood still. Her eyes, open but distant, did not see the storm that fell. Only the white cane in her hands revealed the silent courage of someone facing the world without seeing it. Strangers hurried past, pretending not to notice her. But a waitress did. Maya Thompson stopped, stepped into the rain, and reached out her hand. She didn't know that, at that very moment, someone powerful was watching her. And from that simple act of kindness, a story would begin, one that neither of them could ever have imagined. The Lexington Diner, in downtown Boston, was closing its doors. The neon sign crackled against the storm, casting bluish and pinkish reflections over the soaked asphalt. Inside, the waitress was finishing her second double shift of the week. Her hands ached, her sneakers were drenched, and the few tips in her pocket did not reflect the endless hours of work. Still, she forced a smile as she wiped down the last tables. That was when she saw her. Beneath the dripping awning stood a little girl, alone in the rain. Her wet coat clung to her skin, and her white cane tapped hesitantly against the cracked pavement. Her lost, unfocused eyes revealed that she could not see the world that ignored her. She stood there, vulnerable and exposed. Maya's heart tightened. She dropped the cloth she was holding and pushed open the heavy glass door of the restaurant. The icy wind cut across her face as she crouched in front of the girl. "Sweetheart, what are you doing out here all alone?" she asked gently, keeping her voice calm so as not to frighten her. The child turned her face toward the sound, her eyes clouded but open. "I'm waiting for my father," she whispered, almost swallowed by the roar of the rain. The waitress looked around. Nothing but the dim glow of a pawnshop in the distance and the hiss of tires slicing through the wet pavement. The little girl trembled, clutching her cane as if it were her only safe harbor. "You can't stay out here," Maya said firmly. "Come with me. It's warm inside, and I have something that will make you feel better." For a moment, the girl hesitated. Strangers hadn't always been kind. But there was something in Maya's tone, steady, calm, safe, that made her nod. The waitress carefully took the cane and guided her step by step into the restaurant. As soon as the door closed behind them, the aroma of fresh coffee and buttered toast wrapped around them like a blanket. Maya led the girl to a booth near the heater, took off her own scarf, and draped it over her shoulders. "What's your name, sweetheart?" she asked with a smile. "Elena," she replied softly. "Elena Brooks." Maya's heart tightened even more. She brushed damp strands of hair from the girl's face. "Well then, Elena, you're safe now. And I think you need something warm." Without waiting for an answer, she disappeared into the kitchen. Minutes later, she placed in front of her a steaming bowl of chicken noodle soup and a golden, crispy grilled cheese sandwich. Elena's fingers trembled as they touched the plate. "Is this really for me?" "Of course it is," Maya said, firm but gentle. "Eat. It's on me." The girl took a cautious bite, then another, and suddenly her face lit up. This tastes like happiness." The waitress let out a quiet laugh, but her eyes stung. She had seen too many children carrying burdens far too heavy, far too soon. What she didn't know, what she could not have imagined, was that, across the street, behind dark glass, someone was watching. A man whose empire rose across Boston's skyline, a man who believed kindness was nothing more than another currency. And that night, this man was about to discover that not everything could be bought. But who was the man hidden in the shadows, watching every gesture of a simple waitress with the little girl? The encounter between them was about to change their lives forever. If you also believe that a simple act of kindness can transform destinies, subscribe to the channel now and share your thoughts in the comments. While the rain still poured outside, little Elena devoured every bite of the sandwich with the focus of someone unaccustomed to having abundance before her. The steaming soup had already warmed her pale cheeks, and the short, trembling breaths now came out calmer. Maya sat across from her, resting her chin in her hand, simply watching. "Are you feeling better now?" she asked tenderly. Elena nodded, her clouded eyes turning toward the sound of her voice. Much better. Thank you, ma'am. Maya smiled, brushing aside the formality with a gesture. You can call me Maya. And you, how old are you, Elena? 9, she replied, with a slight flush of pride. I'll be 10 next month. Maya's heart tightened. 9 years old. Still so small, yet already facing a battle many adults could not endure. She reached for a clean towel and gently dried the wet strands of hair that clung to the girl's face. Elena remained silent, as if such care was rare, almost unknown. And your father? Maya ventured softly. Does he know you're here? For a moment, Elena stayed quiet, clutching the white cane against her chest. Then she sighed. He's always busy. He works in buildings, contracts, adult things. I spend a lot of time with different people. Drivers, nannies, but never with him. The words came out simple, innocent, without accusation. Yet the emptiness behind them cut deep into Maya. I understand, she replied, trying not to let her indignation show. But you deserve more than that, Elena. The girl smiled, but a hidden sadness lingered. He says everything he does is for me. But I just wish he were here, even if only to have dinner with me. The waitress felt a lump in her throat. Such a simple desire, the presence of a father, seemed farther away to this little girl than any luxury money could buy. She took Elena's hand gently, wrapping the small, cold fingers in her own. Listen, sweetheart, never let anyone make you believe you're not important. You deserve to be seen, to be heard, to be loved. Elena lifted her face, and even without sight, it was as if she searched for truth in Maya's voice. You speak like my grandmother used to, before she left. Maya drew a deep breath. Then I'll speak as she did. You are a strong girl, Elena. Stronger than you imagine. A timid smile blossomed on the girl's lips, and in that moment, Maya treated her not as a customer, nor as a stranger, but as if she were her own daughter. Outside, the storm continued to punish the streets of Boston. But inside that modest diner, Elena had found a refuge, and Maya, without realizing it, had crossed an invisible line that would change her destiny forever. What she didn't know was that, in another part of the city, a billionaire watched the world from a tower of glass. A man accustomed to turning lives into numbers and people into strategies. And very soon, Maya and Elena's destiny would intertwine with his. In the glass tower of Hale Properties, the heart of Boston reflected in panels of glass that reached the sky. From the 27th floor, billionaire Victor Hale observed the city like one watching over a chessboard. The clock on his desk marked nearly midnight, and the meeting with investors from Hong Kong still echoed in his mind. For him, every minute meant millions, every delay, a calculated risk. But that night, something different caught his attention. From above, his eyes fell on the flickering sign of the Lexington Diner below. There, through the rain, he saw the small figure of Elena being welcomed by a woman in a waitress uniform. The billionaire frowned. He had asked Janet, his assistant, to pick up Elena after her music lesson. An unexpected call with Japanese partners had delayed his plans, and he had ordered the girl to wait in front of the restaurant until the car arrived. It will be a matter of minutes, he had said. But minutes had stretched into nearly an hour, and the rain had not waited. He justified it to himself. Elena was used to caretakers, drivers, instructors. She would be safe near the lit-up diner, surrounded by people. But deep down, Victor knew it wasn't true. The girl had been left alone because once again, he had chosen business over his daughter. Now, seeing her through the fogged glass, sitting in a warm booth, being fed and cared for by that unknown waitress, something inside him stirred uncomfortably. Victor had never believed in free kindness. To the billionaire, every gesture had a hidden price. People always wanted something: contracts, favors, access. Even smiles came with a price tag. And yet, there was something different in the way that woman treated Elena. Without knowing who she was, without expecting anything in return, she simply cared for her as if she were her own daughter. He leaned back in the leather chair, fingers tapping against the flawless desk. Who was this woman? Victor ended the call, his jaw tight. He didn't trust strangers. He didn't trust gestures that couldn't be measured in figures. And yet, he couldn't push away the image of Elena smiling in a way he himself hadn't made her smile in a very long time. Down below, between the steam of soup and the warmth of the heater, an ordinary waitress had accomplished what billions in contracts had never managed, giving his daughter a fleeting moment of genuine joy. Elena had lost her sight 2 years earlier, in a car accident that had also taken her mother's life. Since that night, Victor had watched her retreat into a deep silence, as if the darkness around her had also become the darkness within. For all his resources, no treatment, no specialist, had been able to return to her the one thing that mattered most, the confidence to smile without fear. And now, before his very eyes, a stranger had done the impossible in mere minutes. For Victor Hale, that was far too dangerous to ignore. But who, really, was Maya Thompson? The billionaire was about to discover that this waitress carried a strength powerful enough to shake more than just his distrust, perhaps even the walls he had built around his own heart. The storm had already calmed when the door of the Lexington diner opened again. Maya was clearing plates while Elena slowly savored the last piece of her sandwich, her face already flushed with the heat of the radiator. A woman stepped inside, pulling back her soaked hood, and the wind carried with it the strong scent of expensive perfume mixed with wet leather. Elena lifted her head immediately, her clouded eyes turning toward the sound of the footsteps. "Janet?" The girl's voice sounded relieved, almost smiling. Maya was surprised. So she knew this stranger. The woman approached with firm steps and, in an automatic gesture, pulled off her leather gloves. "Yes, it's me, dear. Your father asked me to come get you." She knelt beside Elena and adjusted the towel on her shoulders, as if she were already part of that routine. Elena nodded without hesitation. "I knew it was you by the way you walk." Janet smiled, but when she lifted her eyes she met Maya's steady gaze, still cautious. "You were the one who looked after her?" she asked, studying her from head to toe. "I was," Maya replied firmly. "I wasn't going to leave a child alone in that rain." Janet's smile tightened slightly, as if filing away a mental note. "Most people wouldn't have done the same." "It wasn't generosity," Maya countered. "It was humanity." The silence between them carried an invisible tension. Janet took Elena's hand, but before leaving, she asked one more question, her voice calculated. "What's your name again?" "Maya Thompson." Janet nodded slowly, as if memorizing an important detail. "I see. Thank you, Miss Thompson." And with Elena by her side, she left the diner toward the waiting car. The next morning, as Maya pulled open the curtains of the restaurant, she found a man standing on the sidewalk. Tall, with an imposing posture, his immaculate overcoat clashed completely with the neighborhood. He didn't look like someone accustomed to waiting. She felt a shiver run through her. "Maya Thompson?" The man's voice was deep, controlled. She hesitated. "Who's asking?" The man stepped inside without asking permission, walking straight to the counter. Only then did he extend his hand. "Victor Hale. I'm the father of the girl you helped last night." Maya's heart skipped a beat. So this was Elena's absent father. The man who had left his daughter waiting in the rain. Victor placed a thick envelope on the counter. "I want to thank you for what you did. Here is compensation for your time and care." Maya looked at the envelope, then at him. Her voice came out steady, without a tremor. "Sir, it wasn't charity. It was humanity." Victor raised his eyebrows, surprised. He wasn't used to direct answers, much less refusals. "Most people would have accepted," he murmured, pushing the envelope closer. Maya crossed her arms. "Then maybe I'm not like most people." A heavy silence lingered between them. The billionaire studied every feature of her face, searching for any sign of hidden interest, some concealed motive. He found none. And that unsettled him. Finally, he slid the envelope back into the pocket of his overcoat. As you said, it was humanity. He repeated her words, but in his voice there was a strange mixture of respect and suspicion. He turned to leave, but before reaching the door, he cast one last look at Maya. She did not look away. At that moment, Victor Hale realized something that disturbed him deeply. That woman was not afraid of him. The Lexington diner was quieter that Tuesday afternoon. The lunch rush had already passed, and waitress Maya took advantage of the rare moment of calm to wipe down tables and count the coins of tips in her apron pocket. It wasn't much as always, but enough to buy rice, milk, and maybe a little fruit. The sound of firm footsteps interrupted her mental calculations. When she looked up, she once again saw the imposing figure of billionaire Victor Hale walking through the door. This time, there was no rain or darkness to soften his presence. The immaculate gray suit, the well-tailored overcoat, the cold, calculating gaze, everything about him screamed of a world Maya did not belong to. She took a deep breath, bracing herself. "Mr. Hale," she said cautiously. "If you've come to offer another envelope, you can save yourself the trouble." Victor did not smile. He walked to the counter and calmly removed his gloves. "I didn't come with money. I came with a proposal." Maya raised her eyebrows, suspicious. "A proposal?" Victor leaned slightly forward, his gaze fixed. "I want you to work for me." The silence that followed was heavy. Maya set the cloth down on the counter, trying to decipher if she had heard him correctly. "Work, for you? I'm a waitress, not a secretary." Victor kept his composure, though inside he fought against a rare discomfort. "She doesn't seem to want anything. She doesn't smile to please. She doesn't try to impress me. She just says what she thinks. People like that are hard to find." "I don't need a secretary," he said firmly. "I need someone to be with Elena. Someone who can give her stability, who will treat her like a child, and not an obligation." Maya's chest tightened at the mention of the girl's name. Elena. Those clouded, innocent eyes. The way she had smiled after tasting a simple sandwich. How could she say no to her? And yet, something in her mind screamed caution. "And why me?" she asked. "Surely you have a line of highly qualified people for a position like this." Victor did not look away. "Because none of them did what you did that night. None of them truly saw my daughter." The words lingered in the air. For the first time, the billionaire's armor seemed to have a crack. The waitress, however, was not so easily convinced. What if this is just a temporary whim? A gesture of pride? Rich people change their minds as easily as they change clothes. When he gets tired, I'll be discarded. And what will become of me then? I don't know if this is a good idea, Mr. Hale." She crossed her arms, trying to contain the storm of thoughts. "I already have my life, my job, even if it isn't much." Victor tilted his head, studying her. "Your life is here? Counting coins to survive?" His voice wasn't mocking, but raw. "I don't offer charity, Maya. I offer an opportunity. A fair salary, benefits, stability. And more than that, the chance to give my daughter something I myself cannot." Maya looked away. "He speaks as if the world is nothing but contracts and numbers. But he's offering me something I never imagined. If I refuse, I remain trapped here, paying late bills with tips. If I accept, I risk becoming dependent on a man who can discard me whenever he wishes." She drew a deep breath. "I need to think." Victor nodded slowly. "Think. But know this, I don't offer twice." He stood, adjusted his overcoat, and walked toward the door. Before leaving, he cast one last look. "My daughter already trusts you."
That's something I haven't managed to earn completely. Don't waste it.
When the door closed, Maya leaned against the counter, her heart racing. The envelope she had refused still echoed in her memory, but now the weight was different. It wasn't just stacks of bills.
It was an entirely different life knocking at her door.
Maya didn't yet know it, but accepting or refusing that proposal would bring consequences that would change not only her destiny but also that of the Hale family itself. What seemed like a chance for a fresh start would soon reveal itself as a crossroads of choices, secrets, and risks she could never have imagined. The Hale Properties building rose like a monument of glass and steel in the heart of Boston. To many, it was a symbol of power. To a simple waitress like Maya, on that first day, it seemed like a gateway into a world that did not belong to her. Dressed in the best she could find, a thrift store blazer and worn shoes she had polished until they almost looked new, she walked across the marble lobby under stairs that followed her like shadows.
Every step echoed louder than she wanted.
The receptionists, perfectly put together, greeted her with formal smiles, but their eyes betrayed judgment.
Who is she? What is she doing here?
The weight of being out of place pressed down, but Maya kept her head high.
I'm not here to be accepted. I'm here for Elena.
In the main office, Victor received her with the same coldness as always. He pointed to the chair beside his desk.
From today on, you report everything concerning Elena to me. School, doctors, routine. I want discipline and organization. Maya nodded, but before she could say anything, the door opened.
Janet walked in with a folder in hand. Her eyes fell on Maya for just a second, but that second was enough. There was a shadow of disdain.
Mr. Hale, here are the reports from Orion Group, Janet said, placing the papers on the desk.
Then she turned to Maya, her tone overly polite to sound sincere. I hope you adapt quickly, Miss Thompson.
The environment here requires refinement.
Maya drew a slow breath, keeping her composure. The days that followed confirmed what she already feared.
At Elena's private school, the mothers of other children whispered in the hallways, staring at Maya's worn blazer as if it were an offense. One of them even commented, without lowering her voice enough. Imagine that, a waitress as a tutor. That's exposing the girl to people from a lower level. Maya heard it but did not react. She simply squeezed Elena's hand and kept walking.
In Victor's circle of executives, it was no different. Meetings she had to attend with Elena exposed her even more to the stares of men in Italian suits.
Subtle comments, jokes that were never funny, looks that placed her firmly as an intruder.
Janet, for her part, seemed to take pleasure in reminding Maya of her place.
Miss Thompson, the report on Elena's routine must be ready before the end of the day.
Or, it would be good if you reviewed your posture in meetings. Everything is observed here, you know how it is. It was always said with a polite smile, but with needles hidden in the words.
Maya kept each of those barbs in silence.
And the counterbalance to it all was Elena. The girl greeted her every day with a sincere smile, hugging her without fear, as if Maya were the anchor she had been waiting for all along. You know, Maya, you talk to me differently, Elena confessed one afternoon as they drew together on a sheet of raised paper.
Not like I'm a problem. You talk to me like I'm normal.
The girl's words pierced through Maya's defenses. If I have to face the whole world to give this child a little dignity, then so be it. From the corner of his office, Victor saw everything. He observed how Maya reacted to the hostile environment, how she endured without losing her strength.
She doesn't back down. She doesn't smile to please.
She doesn't apologize for existing.
Maybe that's exactly why Elena trusts her. But something in him resisted. What if it's only a matter of time before she wants something in return? Everyone does.
Sooner or later, she'll reveal her price.
Victor Hale didn't believe in anything free.
But day after day, that woman's presence challenged his own convictions.
A few weeks later, Maya was called to pick Elena up earlier from school.
The girl was withdrawn, her shoulders hunched, her cane clutched in her hands as if it were a shield.
"What happened, sweetheart?" Maya asked, crouching in front of her. Elena hesitated, but she couldn't hide it for long.
"The girls in my reading group said I'll never be like them. That I live in a dark world and nobody wants to play with someone like that."
Maya felt her blood boil.
Inside, a voice shouted, "Children learn what adults teach. If they mock her, it's because they repeat prejudices they've already heard at home." She took a deep breath, trying not to let her indignation spill over in front of the girl. "Elena, you don't need to see with your eyes to see more than most people ever will.
And I won't let anyone treat you that way. Do you understand?"
The girl nodded slowly, but the wound was already there.
The next day, Maya walked into Elena's school determined not to let the matter slide.
She requested a meeting with the teacher and the coordinator. "Your daughter, or rather, your pupil," the teacher began, trying to soften things, "has difficulty integrating."
"It's natural that children—"
"No," Maya interrupted, her voice firm. "It is not natural to mock a child because of her disability. It is not natural to exclude her.
It is negligence." The teachers exchanged uneasy glances. They don't want trouble, Maya thought. They want to keep up appearances.
But if I don't speak, who will speak for her?
Maya went further. She asked to speak to the class.
Some students laughed when she walked in, others looked away.
Maya didn't hesitate. "You think Elena is different," she said, meeting their eyes one by one. "Well, let me tell you, she has something many of you don't: courage.
Courage to face every single day a world that insists on treating her as invisible. And still, she smiles."
The silence that followed was heavy.
For the first time, some faces showed shame. That night, Victor approached Maya with an icy look.
"Maya, we need to talk."
She crossed her arms, ready.
"I imagine this is about the school." Victor nodded. "It's not your role to confront teachers, much less to expose students. You're getting too involved." The word struck hard, but Maya didn't back down.
"If defending a child is getting too involved, then yes, I am involved." Victor drew a long breath, his jaw tight.
"She challenges my authority as if I were any man.
She doesn't know who she's dealing with." "But why do I feel she's right?" Maya, in turn, felt her heart race, but she did not back down. He may have billions, but he doesn't have the courage to face his own daughter's pain.
"If I stay silent, I'll be complicit." "Mr. Hale," she said firmly, "Elena needs someone to fight for her. If it isn't you, then it will be me."
A few days later, during school dismissal, the inevitable happened. Two classmates whispered and laughed near Elena, mimicking the way she held her cane. Maya walked toward them, ready to intervene, when she heard the girl's own voice rise. "You can laugh all you want," Elena said, lifting her chin.
"Because even without seeing, I see more than you do."
The boys fell silent, surprised.
Elena took a deep breath, then added firmly,
"She's the only one who truly sees me." She pointed to Maya, who was watching with tear-filled eyes. Victor, who happened to be present that day, froze. He hadn't expected to hear those words from his daughter's mouth. "My own daughter calls me absent, but calls that woman I barely know the one who sees her. What have I done with my time, with my priorities?" The silence between the three of them was broken only by the distant sound of the school bell.
But inside Victor, a barrier was beginning to give way.
For the first time, he realized that maybe it wasn't Maya who was getting too involved. Maybe it was him who had never been involved enough.
But could a billionaire truly learn the value of the things money cannot buy before it was too late? That night, Victor entered his penthouse without turning on the lights.
The city glowed outside, but he barely noticed. He sank into the leather armchair, loosened his tie, and let the silence weigh heavily. His daughter's words echoed in his mind like hammer blows. "She's the only one who truly sees me." Victor closed his eyes. All his life, he had learned to calculate numbers, measure risks, anticipate competitors' moves. But nothing had prepared him for the pain of realizing that his own daughter did not include him among the people who truly saw her. He remembered the stormy night when he had watched her from above, alone and shivering in the cold.
I left her waiting. I thought a few minutes wouldn't matter. But they did.
For a child, every minute of loneliness becomes an eternity. In his memory, the image of the girl smiling at Maya in the diner always returned, like a cruel mirror. She smiled at a stranger in a way she never smiled at me.
Victor stood and walked to the window.
The city lights reflected in his gray eyes. I am a man who built empires, yet I failed to build presents for the only person who matters most.
In the days that followed, Victor began to observe more closely the interactions between Maya and Elena.
Not as a calculating businessman, but as someone trying to decode a language he had always ignored. He saw the patience with which Maya described the world to the girl, not as limitations, but as discoveries.
The garden smells of damp earth, Elena, can you feel it?
And today the wind is dancing in the leaves, like music just for us. Victor watched in silence, his heart tightening.
I never described anything to her. I always thought it wasn't necessary.
I always hid behind the idea that money would make up for what I didn't give. He saw Elena smile at small things, a homemade cookie, a song sung on a whim, a sincere compliment. With Maya, the girl transformed, showing a brightness he had never known. I'm the only blind one here, Victor thought one night, as he watched the two of them at the piano, laughing together. She doesn't see with her eyes, but she sees love.
Maya sees her soul. And I'm the only one who sees nothing.
Victor began to feel a different discomfort, one that had nothing to do with business or contracts. It was the awareness that he had failed in the most basic role, that of being a father. Observing Maya, he noticed how she treated Elena not with pity, but with dignity. Not as a burden, but as a girl who deserved to live fully. I bought the best doctors, the best teachers, the most advanced devices, and yet, I never managed to give her what a waitress offered freely, humanity. On the morning of Elena's school play, Victor was already dressed for a crucial meeting. The contract with international investors could bring in hundreds of millions. Janet stood waiting with the folder of reports in hand, ready to escort him. Mr. Hale, the car is ready. The Japanese won't wait. Victor stared at his own reflection in the office mirror, the perfect suit, the flawless tie, the numbers running through his mind as always. But behind that image, his daughter's voice echoed. She's the only one who truly sees me. He closed his eyes. For the first time, he understood the weight of the phrase.
It wasn't just Maya who saw Elena.
It was he who had never truly seen his daughter. He drew a deep breath, pulled off his tie, and left it on the desk.
Tell the Japanese the meeting will be rescheduled. Janet's eyes widened.
Rescheduled? But, sir, these are massive figures. Victor cut her off, firm.
Figures I can recover. My daughter's childhood, I cannot.
At the school, the auditorium filled with parents. Elena stood on stage, dressed as one of the play's characters, nervous but smiling. When her clouded eyes searched the emptiness of the crowd, she expected nothing but the usual voices. But then she heard firm footsteps echoing in the hall and recognized the woody fragrance she knew from afar. She smiled without hesitation. Dad, she whispered, even before seeing him. Victor was there, in the front row.
He wasn't looking at his phone, wasn't talking to Janet, wasn't thinking about contracts.
He was simply watching his daughter. For the first time, truly watching. When the play ended, Elena ran to him, laughing, and threw herself into his arms.
I knew you'd come.
Victor held her tightly, and the whole world seemed to stop.
This is the most important contract of my life, he thought. And I will never break it.
In that auditorium, before everyone, Victor had finally made the choice to be present.
Elena's embrace wasn't just that of a daughter, it was the seal of an invisible contract, more valuable than any figure. But what no one knew was that this reunion was only the beginning. Because the true impact of Victor's transformation would not be revealed on the school stage, but before the eyes of the world. Days later, while journalists awaited another business announcement, the billionaire surprised everyone with news that would change not only his image but the destiny of thousands of children. The following week, Victor called an unexpected press conference. The reporters expected acquisitions and new ventures, but instead, they heard something no one anticipated. Today I'm not here to talk about buildings or profits. I'm here to talk about people. His voice echoed firm. My daughter taught me that to truly see goes beyond having vision. It means recognizing value where the world insists on ignoring it. That's why Hale Properties is launching the Elena Brooks Foundation, dedicated to creating opportunities and programs for visually impaired children across the country. At his side, Maya and Elena stood together. Maya, astonished, felt her heart race. He isn't just opening his wallet. He's opening space. He's opening his eyes. Victor continued. And I will not do this alone.
Maya Thompson, who showed me what it means to truly see, will be responsible for coordinating the foundation's social projects.
Applause. Camera flashes.
But what mattered was not in the headlines. It was in Elena's smile as she gripped her father's hand tightly. Months later, Victor was no longer just the man of endless meetings. Slowly, he began to become the father Elena had always longed for, present at rehearsals, at appointments, in the small victories of everyday life. One spring afternoon, sitting in the garden of the foundation's new headquarters, he watched Elena play among other blind children, all laughing out loud. Maya, by his side, coordinated activities with the same energy she always had. Victor breathed deeply. I spent my whole life building empires that never saw me. Today, I built something that finally allows me to be seen by the only person who matters. And when he heard Elena call him Dad with more pride in her voice than ever before, he knew he had finally learned to see. At that moment, Victor Hale understood what so many never discover: true power is not in raising skyscrapers, but in raising people. Real wealth is not measured in figures, but in gestures of love and presence. Because, in the end, it isn't contracts or conquests that remain, it's the bonds we create, the smiles we awaken, and the lives we help transform. And you? Do you believe that a simple act of kindness can change destinies? Leave your comment below, share this story with someone special, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more stories that prove character is worth more than any fortune.